I would like to call up Chief Sikorsky. Thank you for coming down. Oh, sorry, roll call, sorry.
Yep.
You can sit there though, I think in the meantime.
I'm just gonna call the roll very quickly. Councilmember Middleton? Here. Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Present.
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Porter is absent for the record. Councilmember Dundon?
Present.
Councilmember Hotchkiss?
Present.
Corporation Council? You want to say hi? Rebecca, oh, I'm sorry, Rebecca. Councilmember. Brath, sorry.
Present.
A little flustered without the sign. Councilmember Matavesky,
Present.
and I am the city clerk and present.
All right, so discussion on RL 24-3. Is there any questions? Yeah.
Hi, good evening. So I just had a few questions. Oh, did you?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, okay. I just had a few questions regarding this. One, attached to this, there isn't a new updated agreement. Do you have one in process?
This is the same as the updated one. That's why we're
Okay.
getting permission to sign it for, for us to enter into that agreement.
So it's exactly the
It's-
same,
It's exactly the same. Yes, it is.
okay?
Chief, is this a 5-year agreement?
Yes, that's just because of the accreditation. That's why we're doing this. We get accredited every 5 years.
Okay.
This is part of the process to be accredited. You have to have an MOU in place if you have a Metro SWAT team like we have.
Okay.
So it'd be the length of the accreditation is 5 years.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. A few other questions. Can you just explain to us like what the agreement is? I read that it's Johnson City, Vestal and ourselves,
It
Binghamton.
is.
Can you just like give us a little bit more detail regarding it? Just because I want to know. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll tell you what I can when we're not in executive session.
Okay.
There's 4 members from the Johnson City Police Department. There's 4 members from the Vestal Police Department, and there's 13 officers from the Bennington Police Department. Back way, this agreement's probably in place. I think I said in the email, it's over 20 years. It helps with manpower. You have to have so many officers per what type of entry you're able to do, what type of SWAT team. So it relieves us from stress of manpower, training costs. Most of the funding for the SWAT team is through grant money. Their salaries, obviously, they get paid, just like anybody else, regular salary. There's a stipend like 500 or 1,000 a year for being on a SWAT team. So it's an agreement where the smaller villages obviously can't afford a SWAT team. And it helps to alleviate stress in our manpower by trying to come up with 21 bodies on our own. For the training purposes, they're highly trained. There's requirements how much training that they have to have during the course of the year.
So you said, I'm sorry. So you said you need 21 members?
Well, there's different numbers. We're not a hostage rescue team.
Uh-huh.
You even need more for that. I think that number's 25 or 26. We're below that. So right now, currently, there's our 13 and the other 8. So there's 22. But you got to, there's to make entries, you need a certain number of people depending on the circumstances. Guys are on vacation, they're out of town, they're sick. So there's got to be some leeway in there.
Okay, just another, I had one more question, I think, and then if anybody else has any more questions, you guys can ask. You said the new contract and the last one, I think we said it was expired, so it expired when in 2022 or 2023?
It expired. We found out the state doesn't notify you. We found that out. This is new, this accreditation process. We were one of the first teams. I think there's 60 or 70 teams in the state. We were in the top 5, I believe, to be accredited. So when we switched team leaders, the team leader, the commander of the unit retired. We got looking through the paperwork and realized it expired in December. So we contacted the state. They've temporarily, based on our performance, we're still temporarily accredited, but we have to reapply. Well, we would have to do the same thing anyway, even if it wasn't expired.
Okay, so since it's expired, so you need this push through right now, then correct? Like as soon as
Yes.
possible? Okay.
Yes.
Does anybody have any other questions? I think that's it. Thank you
Okay.
so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
I'd like to just offer to you while I'm here, that ride-alongs. I know most of you are familiar with our operations. If you're interested, it's any hours you're choosing, just let me know, send me an email, and I'll set it up for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right. And now we're calling up Grace Doherty.
Hi, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
RL, let me see, 24-7 is to authorize the sale of 28 Alfred Street to, it should say Gino, on there, and Elsa Ferranti for $500. This lot is a part of our side lot program, where neighbors who are adjacent are able to, submit an offer to purchase that lot. The same goes for the authorization of the sale of 74 Evans Street to Michael and Margaret Igo for $500.
Hey, Grace.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming down. Can you just for our education as we're all getting into this, just like give us an overview of the side lot adoption program?
Yeah, I printed out sheets on it too. If you guys, I can pass them around if you want to look at them and then we can go over it.
That'd be great.
So the city side lot program, this was adopted before I was in this position. But it transfers ownership of vacant lots from the city to eligible, property owners who live adjacent, so typically next door to the property. And this helps with, blight reduction and increases green space throughout the city of Binghamton. And also it removes the burden from our Department of, our Parks and Recreation Department, who then has to go and mow all these properties and maintain them. So once a property is demoed or we have other green space opportunities, we send letters out to the property owners next door, make sure that they're eligible. And a lot of them, we've had really good luck with this. They can expand their yards, green space, plant flowers, put a little swing set on there for their children. So it's been a great program.
Thank you. I'm curious, is there like a running list of city-owned vacant lots that are eligible for this program that you maintain?
Yes, we do have, I'm pretty sure I can get with Parks and see what our list is on the lots that we are maintaining at this moment.
Thank you. And I've been aware of this program for a little while now, and I actually was like one of the first times I emailed Megan when she had your job to like see what was going on. And I think it's a good program, but there's a number of lots that I think you're probably already aware of that it's more difficult to get them to adopt because it might be an out-of-town landlord. And they don't necessarily have like that much investment in the community. And I mean, this goes beyond like the RLs here, but I would be interested in having discussions with you about what we can do about those
sure.
lots and where they are if you have them in a list already. But
For sure.
that's all the questions I have unless anybody has anything else.
I do.
I've been advised not to answer questions tonight from, with the ongoing legal pending case right now.
That's the planning department has actually been ignoring my questions for about a decade, so I'm happy to hand them over to.
Well, yeah, you can
staff.
submit any of your questions.
That's okay. I'll submit them to a fellow council member to ask.
So for this, are there any other potential property uses that are considered for a vacant lot if they're not being adopted?
I'm not quite sure. Do you mean like, are there, like with the list that we have, are there other eligible places for green space? Is that what you're asking?
No, so it's like if there's a vacant lot, is it just like it'll remain vacant or will the property owner
It-
take ownership?
It
Is that
depends
like-
on the location.
or?
I can get with planning and get more specifics for you and send an email if that would be helpful.
Okay.
I don't have all the details right now, but I'd be more than happy to do that.
Thank you. So right now is the only way that this is marketed through individual outreach to property owners, or is this easily like, is there wide program exists?
So what we do is when we have a property or side lot that's eligible, the neighbors who are adjacent, I do send out letters to them, making them aware of the opportunity to purchase them. And if they're interested in doing so, they can submit an offer to purchase, for that. You're welcome.
I'll open it to other council members if you're all set.
That's it for me. Anybody else?
Let me double check. Was there anything the clerk received or anything for this? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you for coming down. And now I'll turn things over to Mike, Chair, Councilman Dundon, Chair of the
Hold on.
Public Works Committee. And our guest is Joshua Paludi. And the RL, do I say it not? Right? All right, so the RL is 24-9 to authorize the city of Binghamton to enter into an agreement with New York State Department of Transit to provide emergency assistance in the absence of the governor's emergency declaration.
So basically what this is if there's an emergency, we can share services up to $25,000 with the state DOT without the governor's approval. Example, we run out of salt. They will loan us salt into an amount of that much without authorization from them. And it goes back and forth between us and them. This is a 4-year deal.
How long have we been doing this agreement, Josh?
I can tell you for sure 8 years. Before that, I can't
Okay.
speak on it.
Okay.
That's how far back I can see the paperwork.
I don't have any other questions if any other council members do.
I would just ask that, is there any sort of pain point or sore spot that this gets used and implemented more often than any other, or it's just
It
hard to tell?
doesn't get used very often. It has to be a pretty extreme situation. Shortness of supplies is usually what it would be, or a large snow event, but usually the emergency declaration would be called.
Any other questions from any council members? Any emails or anything of interest from the clerk? Okay. All right. So much for coming down.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
And then say charter, chapter 26-6, section B. We're making a change of this next one from being the finance committee to being the planning committee, which is chaired by Nate. Putting that on the record here, and we're looking to speak with Juliet Burling. Thank you. And I'm handing things over to Nate to lead this
Thank
section.
you.
Hotchkiss.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Nice to meet you. Can you just there's a lot of information here. So can you just give us a general overview of what we're looking at?
Yep, absolutely. This is our, I believe our 6th award from the Home and Community Renewal Affordable Housing Corporation grant. We asked
Sorry, I'm
for-
going to interrupt with the RL number. RL 24-4.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can you guys hear me okay? Sometimes, okay, good.
If
Um,
you could speak a little bit louder, it's like yeah, thank you.
You got it. No problem. So we asked for twice the amount this year that we normally do. We had requested 680,000 from the grant, and it was approved and awarded to us. We used this funding for the rehab of low moderate income, single family homeowners property. They apply for the funding. It goes through Metro Interfaith, who then reviews their eligibility, their status, their income. We do a walkthrough of the property with code, identify all of the code violations, and we're allowed to spend money on what they consider non-luxury upgrades. A kitchen, bathroom, adding handicap accessibility, those are the major non-luxury ones. Some of the properties, from the forties have never had a kitchen upgrade, so that we're not like, we spend about 50 to 60,000 per property is our cap, so.
Okay, and I'm curious how,
Mhm.
so you said Metro Interfaith, basically, they like administer this, or
Mhm.
do they have properties that are already identified?
No, people apply for the program and the application goes into them. We wrote the application, they do the intake, basically. And if the individual, the property owner is approved, they go on a waiting list. So we currently have a waiting list of about 34 applicants. We just received the funding, so, but.
Oh, so there's a list already?
Mhm.
For-
Oh,
okay.
yeah, it's an ongoing rolling list. It takes about a new person added. It'll be a couple of years before, they get moved up. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Is this,
But the work, everything is done in-house. We hire the contractors with the homeowner. Metro does the intake and then we do the rest. So with our housing division, so.
okay. I'm curious, now I forgot my question.
Mhm.
Um,
Can I ask one really quick? While you're
Go ahead.
looking? Okay, sorry. Hi, Julia. How are
Hi,
you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm good. So just a few questions. If we had more money, would it make the time go faster on the wait? Do you think that's like I just was wondering, like, because you said that it's like a 2-year wait.
Yeah.
So if there were more funds available, would the wait would it help with the process?
I will never say no to more funds. Right now, the,
Money.
the issue is, the available contractors. After, during COVID, it slowed everything down and we lost a couple of contractors. These are small projects compared to, I guess the others projects out there. And so we don't get we have a contractor list. It's about 15 contractors that have submitted all of their information. But we only have 3 or 4 who are actively rotating these projects. So if we had, I don't know, the ability to attract more contractors, that's really what slows it down. We would burn through the money quicker if we had more contractors. And so then we'd need more money. So, yeah.
I understand.
But mostly that's what's holding it up.
Just another question. So you said that the money goes to Metro Interfaith, like,
Mm-mm.
no, what did you say? I'm sorry.
It comes to us.
comes to-
They do
But
the,
Metro Interfaith does it, the work,
they do
right?
no, they just do the intake.
Okay,
So
the intake.
the applications go to them. They do the verification of income and eligibility. And then they give all that file to us and then we start over. We start the whole project. So,
So you wouldn't know exactly what is needed for.
we do, yeah.
Okay. And is this like known to the public? Like, do a lot of people know about this program?
Metro advertises for us. We advertise. We also have it on our website. We work with a couple of other agencies, DSS, a couple of the Chodos, First Ward Action, opportunities for, what is it, Greater Opportunities now, that's what it's called. Yeah, so we advertise with everybody. So, we did at one point have radio announcements and TV announcements, but we haven't done that. So I'd rather just keep the money on the projects. And we have such a backlog,
With the intake process, Juliet, does Metro have, or does the city have a preference or priority population that they target, or a target area?
It's simply low, moderate income. That's the only restriction, so.
And no particular community is targeted either?
No.
How does the city track resale when it comes to maintaining affordability?
I just remembered I'm supposed to delay your questions until,
so I'll ask, how does the
But I'm
city,
sorry, really quick. So just for clarification, I believe your staff said she had been advised and you're saying you're supposed to.
No,
Can
I've
you
been
share
advised.
what
That's what I mean.
has been communicated to,
The same thing. We were just advised to not answer questions.
advised by whom?
our administration
Advised by the mayor.
and legal counsel. No, the mayor did not. I didn't speak with the mayor.
Advised by legal counsel.
We've been advised, yes.
Advised by corporation counsel. You said administration. I'm trying to
not
get at whom you've been
administration.
advised by.
Okay, can we try and bring it back to the legislation? Sorry, I'm gonna do a little, bringing it back here. So let's focus on, RL, our RL here. Are there any questions that potentially the chair of the planning committee would like to ask?
Yeah. I would ask, does the city track any of the resale after this work is done?
Yeah, we do. We have to. With the requirements based on the amount of money that's awarded to the property. It's a 5, 10, 15, 25 year that we have to track. The property resale has to go to low moderate income. So we do.
I don't have any further questions right now. Anybody else?
Not to put you on the spot to challenge your memory here, but to give off the top of your head, sort of total amount invested in this program and total amount of properties affected.
Well, I can tell you, I did just a quick walkthrough of our files. We had about 126 properties that we've used this funding on since about 2013 to current. What I have is from our last grant, which we just closed. The amount that we were awarded at that point was 350,000. We spent the full amount. The city put in about 1.1 million from the match. It's spelled out here from home income, that kind of stuff. And we renovated 29 properties at 50,000 each. And we do layer in funding from the county for lead abatement. So I understand. I could give you the total. I just don't have, all those years worth of data. But we have it. I can get it.
And let's see. A grant from the AHC, right?
Mhm.
Is this the kind of acceptable scope of a grant from them, or is there a different way the city could be asking or utilizing money from this grant or this source?
This source is very specific. So this was specifically the home improvement part of that grant. So the only thing that this can be spent on specifically is what we wrote in the grant application we give the 34 properties on the waiting list. We gave an estimate of the needed repair for those properties and is really targeted. So.
For me.
Any other council member that would like to ask further questions on this?
Robert, my understanding, just to add a little context if I could, is the HCR program has additional eligible costs. It's just that for Juliet's response, they limited it to this use. So yes, to your question.
No, this grant specifically is for home improvement projects. It's under
Right.
the AHC.
Right.
Okay,
And yeah, is it subject to home guidelines?
yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's other types of funding, but this specific one, right? Okay.
Thank you.
You can use it for new construction if you apply for that. It's a great program. I love them.
Madam President, question. Is there a time constraint on when this grant?
Yes, we have 60 days left. So it's,
Any final questions for Dr. Burling?
but the sooner it's in place, the sooner we can get going. So,
Okay. Anything from the clerk? All right. All right. So that brings us to our next RL, and Robert, Councilman Kavanaugh, who heads the Finance Committee, will be speaking with Deputy Mayor Hyman about RL 24-2, mayor to authorize NFP to act as broker of record for health insurance. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me. Councilman, would you like me to just give an overview to start?
Please do. I got one from Chuck, but I'll let you take a stab at it with you.
Okay. Sure. So RL 24-2, this is a resolution to authorize NFP to act as the broker of record for health insurance for the city. So in this role, NFP assists the city by acting as a broker with our health insurance carriers. So it's assisting with fee negotiations, rate settings, and strategic planning, and a number of other items. I believe their scope of services should be included in your packets. Another aspect of this is NFP assists city employees with benefits questions and claims, and a handful of other things as well. This service is at no additional cost to the city.
Perhaps you could explain why it has such a service as this. Just to enlighten everyone about the kind of the insurance structure of the city.
Sure. So it's my understanding that it's a benefit primarily to the finance department, working as an intermediary between the city and our health insurance carriers. So I think there's a list of services they provide, but it's that entire range that comes at no cost to the city. And we've used NFP, I think going back 5 or 6 years now. So this would be not an extension, but entering into further years with them.
And when an RFP on this was put out, how many companies responded and how those were evaluated?
Yes. So my understanding is that the RFP went out late last year. 2 firms responded, including NFP, which it has an Endwell office. The other firm was based in Syracuse. So that's a contributing factor. We try to stay with local firms whenever we're able to and whenever it makes sense. And I think too, it was just evaluated based on the services being provided or being offered.
So the scope of services does mention some strategic consulting and reports that get generated and stuff. Has the city availed themselves of these reports? Are they available? They've been talked about?
I believe so. That Mr. Shager in the finance office would be the person to ask for that. I'd be happy to follow up with him.
I yield. Anyone else?
Any questions from any other council members? Anything from the clerk? 3, 2, 1. So, similar to, oh no, this one stays the same. So it's still finance and Robert. So we'll, Deputy Hyman, we're gonna now move on to RL 24-5, accept a grant not to exceed 250,000 from the Community Resilience, Economic Sustainability and Technology CREST Capital Grant Program for a pumper fire truck. And the committee chair is still Councilman Kavanaugh, and it's still the Finance Committee. Thank you.
So I know this discussion of pumper truck and the process has been underway for a while. And we're a new council, so would you care to fill us in on the story so far?
Of course. So as Madam President said, this is a $250,000 grant through the CREST Capital Grant Program. This is a grant we received from Senator Leah Webb. And it's to put towards the purchase of a new pumper fire engine for the fire department. A little bit of the background, this new fire apparatus will replace Fire Engine 1, which is currently serving the Southside Station. That fire engine is 20 years old. It has more than 92,000 miles and 8,800 engine hours. Once this new fire apparatus comes into rotation, current fire engine one will become a secondary or spare engine essentially. That grant letter from Senator Webb should be included in your packets, along with the grant application worksheet that shows the total cost and how the city intends to cover the remainder of that cost, which is bonding. And we'd be back down to city council at a future work session to approve that portion.
Bonding's in progress. Just
So I believe the plan is to come back down at the next work session to approve the bonding portion of it. This tonight is just the acceptance of the grant from Senator Webb's office.
I yield.
Does anyone else have any questions on this RL? Okay, and I think the next one is also, oh no, okay. So then the next one is RL 24-10. Amend the 2024 general fund budget to fund a police lieutenant position for the whole budget year 2024 and defund a grade 1 police officer for the whole budget year 2024. Increase benefits associated with change of grade. And we have Councilman Kavanaugh with the Chair of Finance Committee leading these questions.
So this one came in kind of on fire, I think, from the city, from the administration. Would you like to give the background on why we need this change, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
So this is related to a personnel matter. As council members may be aware, the city moved in 2022 to terminate a lieutenant in the police department for cause. The lieutenant's position was not included in the 2024 budget during the budgeting process, as we were awaiting the administrative hearing process to play out essentially. The hearing officer on that case released his report and recommendation late last month. That report and recommendation did not include dismissal of the officer. So that process is still unfolding. We have a court order on this from a state Supreme Court judge ruling that the city has to continue to pay the officer while this is unfolding. So this legislation does just that. It funds that position back and defunds a currently vacant grade 1 position in the process.
So it would be nice to have included with this the actual court order. I mean, I think we'd seen I don't know if we officially got receipt of the hearing officer's report, but it's out there. But the court order also would have been nice. We were just told. So to have that included in the record as a reason to expedite this. So
Sure, I'd be happy to share that with the city clerk's office for distribution if that works.
that's fine.
Okay.
Are you all set?
I yield.
Okay.
Other questions?
Anybody, any other council members wish to ask any questions on this?
Just a quick question. So, this has to be expedited, 'cause it says please expedite court order. Is there
Yeah.
a time on it or just as soon as?
We're requesting expedition because the lieutenants, we would be required to pay him starting January 1.
Okay.
We've covered his back pay through December 31st. So with the new year, we're just asking that it be done as soon as possible for payroll purposes.
Anyone else? Okay, anything from the clerk? All right. Let's see, and then, oh, we go to another one for you.
Last one, I think.
All right, so RL 24-1, mayor to authorize Bonadio and Co. LLP for audit services, and this is again in the Finance Committee chaired by Councilmember Kavanaugh.
So again, similar to the NFP discussion earlier, this is a city service that we contract for that RFPs went out on. You've had responses. Bonadio is the firm that's been retained in the past, and the the will of the administration is to continue with them. But could you please go into some background on the process? How many firms responded? And kind of just how we got to this particular decision
Sure.
internally.
Sure, yep. As the councilman stated, and the city issued an RFQ for proposals for this back in November, I believe. I believe 3 firms responded, but I would like to double check that with the comptroller. But I believe 3 firms responded, and Bonadio was selected largely based on their experience and the size of their firm. So as a larger firm with some bigger municipal clients, the city felt that they had sort of the experience and insight to best serve the city and audit its several entities as we were looking for in the RFQ.
So this is another one that's come down with a please expedite on it. And in this case, it looked like the timeline was to have this done in December. So do we know why it got delayed getting to council before the end of the year? Since plenty of other things came down to council before the end of the year.
I don't know if that was the intent or why it would have been delayed if it was. The reason for our request to have it expedited is we have 2 entities that the firm will be auditing that have audits due at the end of March. So this is just to enable them to get a jump start on those and to file in time for deadline.
Were there any local firms who responded?
So, Madam President and Ms. Rathmel, as other department heads have advised, we've been advised not to answer questions from Ms. Rathmel and just have them directed at the city clerk's office.
Anybody else have any?
Did any local firms respond?
I would have to check.
Anybody else?
This is not necessarily a question related to this legislation, but we were looking at this and it seems like it would be useful for us to be part of the discussions prior to the legislation arriving here so that we could see like the different applicants and then how you're evaluating those. Is there an opportunity to do that, or is our council not purview to those?
In terms of evaluating the responses that come in for RFQs?
Yeah.
I believe so. I know in the past, council members, depending on what RFQs there are, the committees have sometimes been made up of at least a council member.
Okay, yeah, we definitely want to explore that.
Understood.
I think there's another one coming down the line on the workers' comp insurance for the city. And so it'd be nice maybe to step toward that to, be in on the, however the pitch meetings, if you will, work from those respondents, something like that. We could work on that.
Any other responses, questions from council members or the clerk? Okay, thank you so much, Deputy Mayor.
Thank
for coming
you.
down. Nice to see you. All right, so our next RL is RL 24. Authorize the mayor to a $210,275 grant from New York State Homes and Community Renewal to support facade work and streetscape improvements in the target area defined in the attached Schedule A. Sarah Close and the chair, go to that Charter 26-6 Section B that we're changing the finance to planning and therefore the for this committee is Nate Hotchkiss, Councilman Nate Hotchkiss.
Thank you. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for coming down. Can you just give us an overview of this to start with?
So during the state's consolidated funding application cycle, which runs roughly from May to July every year, we applied for a New York Main Street target area project. So what you see represented in the Schedule A was what they accepted of our application. So last year, the VLDC ran and continues to run a facade grant program. So it was a $500,000 pot of money that we are have fully allocated to projects across the city, but there were a number of projects that came in that were either far too large in dollar value and would use too much of the funds and not allow us to spread them across the city. And there were a number that were all coming in from the same area, the Downtown Arts District. So in order to kind of make those facade funds we already have go farther and leverage some additional state dollars, we submitted those applications for facade funding to the state as part of this New York Main Street application. And we're successful in receiving the roughly $210,000 that are listed there that are expected to leverage around $239,000 in private funding for specifically facade work that supports commercial tenants in the Arts District, which in this case is constituted roughly of State Street between Lewis and Henry Street and Prospect Street between the same cross streets.
Did you have specific entities that you were like targeting with I know there's supposed to be like 10 commercial units.
So the properties that we submitted in the application, which I don't have off the top of my head, but can provide if folks are interested, were the properties we submitted. We are required as part of this grant, even though we're required to submit projects in order to receive the funds, we're also required to re-canvass those same properties after acceptance of the funds. So what we'll do is we'll go back to those original applicants, we'll confirm if they're still interested, if their projects have changed at all, if the project amounts have changed at all. Given that this was more than 6 months ago at this point that we collected the initial information, I anticipate that there will be changes, which will likely mean that there's funds that are available for other facades that did not come in for the project. But we'll also just see with this amount of money, if there's anything we can do to support more facades in that area with all the investments the city just made in the Arts District and specifically State Street. We have seen an increase in people being interested in having and locating commercial businesses and residential tenants on that street. So we're optimistic that folks who maybe did not come in for the facade program the first time would be interested in a conversation about how this or any other funding that we work with could potentially support them in investing in their properties.
Cool. I think that's, yeah, it's nice to know that there's like this money available for folks that might want to have improvements, and that it's not necessarily set in stone about who's receiving it. I don't have any questions right now. Does anybody else have any?
Just so the PLA is listed as City of Binghamton, but specifically that's your department takes lead on these, yes?
I am leading this grant effort, yes.
And then I think there was a 2-year or 24-month timeline to get these done, finished product. And that's been, that has not been an issue with these in the past, or?
I anticipate that it likely will be an issue. 24 months is a very quick turnaround.
Seemed to me.
So that's something that we will work with the state on. I know that they are generally flexible if there is progress being made towards completion, that they will extend those deadlines, but they like to set them very tightly to really encourage folks to move quickly. So upon acceptance of this grant, we will actually have Janine Faulkner in my office is meeting with HCR tomorrow to go through the grant administration procedures. Because even though I'm the signatory on the grant, she will be the person managing a lot of the paperwork and the relationships over on State Street. So we are hoping to hit the ground running. And as soon as the mayor is able to sign this contract, we're working on the background paperwork right now, all of the forms that need to be signed for the state in order for them to execute the contract on their end. So those two things should come together right around the time that this is able to be signed. And then we will move into that canvassing. I don't want to reach out to any of the property owners until we have signature, just wouldn't want to have to let them know of any changes. I'd like to kind of have everything set in stone before I reach out to them.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Any
Sarah,
further questions?
So the creation and rehab, it's at least my understanding that the creation and rehab of residential units is an eligible activity within the Main Street program. Was this considered, particularly given the target area?
As we've discussed, Mr. Rathmel, we're not allowed to answer your questions at this time, but you can please direct them to the clerk, or if anybody else would like to pose the question, I can answer it.
Does anyone need?
I'll recognize,
I have a question. How many of these commercial properties are going to kick in Article 8 of the New York State Labor Law, Ellen Wade Public Works?
So they're going to have to follow whatever the state says. So I would have to look more closely at the contract to understand what the requirements are, but every subrecipient of these funds will have to be accountable to whatever the state contract is. So I know that there's MWBE requirements. I've looked through that with HCR at this point, but that's something that we're hoping Janine will get more clarity on tomorrow. So for the state requirement, absolutely, we will make it a subrecipient agreement.
Any further questions from any council members?
Yep. All right, Sarah. So my question is, my understanding of that for this funding that there are opportunities for properties were those during this application process?
Yep, so that is correct. This particular contract does not speak to residential properties because we did not submit for any. Part of the reason for that was in our previous iterations of New York Main Street grants, the recipients of the funds found that the burden of paperwork and requirements that the state required for the housing was overly burdensome, and they did not complete the projects or did not complete them within compliance and therefore did not get the grant funding. So just in order to avoid that issue as it happened in the past, we decided not to pursue residential for this. One other issue is that on State Street, most of the upper story residential is already completed and occupied. So there's very limited opportunity in this target area for there to be additional upper story residential. But yes, we understand that upper story residential, especially in our downtown and in places where there are vacant or not in productive use at this time, is important. It just wasn't a particular priority for this particular grant application.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Take a pause here. Nate, do you have any further questions? Councilman Hopkins?
This is a little bit frustrating to be is on here. Is that saying? Is that? Mhm. Okay, so our understanding of the Main Street project grant,
That's correct.
would we be to the previous applications that were for the same type of funding? No, see, this is very difficult and I apologize.
I'm mostly marketing. Will that change the business of their project? Or is it already in writing? I want to see how they get it.
No further questions from me right now.
Okay. And any further questions can be directed to the city clerk, and those will be answered by department heads between now and when the vote happens. Thank you.
Anybody, any other council members?
Oh, I'm always asking something. What is the time on this, that this needs to be approved? Like, is this like an expedited or is there a time?
It's not expedited, so just on the normal timeline. So not this Wednesday's business meeting, but the business meeting after is when I would like to see this approved. We did ask for an extension from the state. We got this, I think, in the middle of December and would have had to request an expedite to have it completed under the previous council. So we requested an extension. The state was very amenable to that. And so we decided just to do it wholly within the January timeline. So that is how much time I have been given extra by the state. And if you guys need more time to review, please just let me know and I can request additional time.
Thank you.
So much. Going once, going twice on final questions. Clerk, get anything interesting? Okay. Thank you so much for coming down. And our next one is RL 24-11, amend the BJCSB 2024 budget to increase hourly rates due to 2.66% CPI increase and change the position count by defunding a position. and we're welcoming Billy Goodson, and the committee is Finance with Chair Councilman Kavanaugh.
Hello again, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Goodson, for coming down. My understanding, we spoke the other day, these came in, what the policy we're trying to adhere to came in late, but these were passed by the Joint Sewage Board last month, and then because of the change in councils, they kind of got bounced back to the sewage treatment plan, and so they got into contact with us basically as soon as they could to get them. It's basically both of these are RL 2411 and RL 2412 are adjustments to pay for our essential frontline sewage treatment plant workers. And it's all within the budget. They're just moving around lines in the budget. It seems pretty routine, and I'm sure it's a well-deserved increase. But if there's anything else you'd like to add, since you came all the way down here, please. So, and in fact, I'm okay with personally, and as chair of the finance committee, with these and with expediting them, because I believe Johnson City already passed this, and you're trying to get these applied to payroll as soon as possible.
It would be appreciated, yes.
Anything you'd like to add, or did I?
I don't have anything to add at
All
this
right.
point. There is no transfer between lines because we are, we're unfunding positions to pay for these increases and for the change in, were you speaking to both RLs?
I don't know if
Okay.
it's proper to do that, but
Okay.
I would
all
say
right.
the same thing about 12 as I am about 11.
Yeah, there was no transfer of funds, just movement in the positions in the hourly personnel line.
So I guess I'm gonna make it clear that Councilmember Kavanaugh's moving to expedite.
Oh, yes, I would like to
RL.
expedite these. Yes.
RL 24-11 and RL 24-12.
Yeah, yes. Yes, fine, yes, I know. Yeah, I move to expedite.
Yeah, yeah.
We can do it.
I'll make a second to the motion.
Thank you. No, because they are already notated as expedited on the agenda.
Just a quick question. My RL3, I don't know if that was, I don't know if it's that on
So
there. Hold on, here, we're sharing. Does that?
If there's an
10 were
asterisk
noted as
next to it,
expedited
then
in
it's
the agenda.
expedited.
And Councilman Kavanaugh's moving to expedite 11 and 12.
Point of order, 3 was not, RL3 was not, is not indicated as expedited.
Three?
3 was the first one.
Oh, for the SWAT.
Yeah. Should we move that?
So
All right.
should we move to expedite 3?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I will reiterate my motion. I move to expedite RL 24-12 and RL 24-11.
And Councilman Dundon seconded it previously?
I will still second the motion.
Great. So I guess the clerk takes, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any op- Okay, the motion passes to expedite.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, sorry.
Mhm.
And I moved to, expedite RL, 24-3.
Second.
Um, I guess we'll take a vote on the motion that's been requested and seconded. It's all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
Almost there.
Clarify, so we have now, 1, 10, 11, 12, and 3 now, that on the business. Okay. So, do we have any further discussion on RL 24-11? And then I'll double check in on RL 24-12. So first, RL 24-11, any further questions from any council members? Anything from the clerk? Okay, so RL 24-12, amend the CSB 2024 budget position count to defund 1 mechanics assistant and fund 1 mechanics position. And this one continues to be Councilmember Kavanaugh with the Finance Committee.
I have nothing more to add to the discussion that we had on 24-11. Do you?
I do not, thank you.
Okay,
I do.
anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Someone has to make the motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
And I second that.
Okay, great. All right, yeah. Do we roll call? No, we don't. Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you all.
I'd just like to invite you all to the joint sewage plant. There's a lot that goes on behind those walls. It's very impressive. If you would like to come down, you can reach out to me or Superintendent Elliot Wagner, and we'll be happy. He's the best one to give you a tour of the plant, but there is a lot going on that I think you would find interesting that we do down there.
Thank you so